Hello and welcome to the 58th episode of In Our Defense. Hi Abhishek, how are you?
Hi Dev, very well. Lots of things happening around us as we record. Couple of hours from now, exit polls will be
Exit polls for Karnataka will be held, will be released actually.
Lots of activity in the
Lots of
newsroom
activity.
today.
So
Actually,
I was wondering if I should say what's up because there's so many things going on.
yeah, simultaneously, and both of us have to keep a track of all those
Everything,
things.
exactly, yeah. So it's a very busy day, busy week for us.
Yeah.
And we still have a couple of days to go before the results are out this Saturday. We are recording this on a Wednesday for our listeners and viewers, in case you're wondering. And the show is out every Thursday on all the platforms that you're listening to us on. And, once again, a request to everyone, whether you're listening to us on YouTube or Spotify, Apple Podcasts, do leave us a comment. Do let us know what you think of this podcast. Drop a message to us at 8588 966 996 or an email to us at pods@indiaday.com. That's pods@indiaday.com. So Abhishek, क्या बात करना है? बहुत कुछ है बात करने को actually.
Yeah,
Even
it's
if you leave
confusing,
out,
actually,
even if you
yeah.
leave out what we do in our day jobs, the politics of the country, elections coming up, etc. Even then, in the realm of defense, there's so much happened. Not just in India, across the world.
Across the world, some very interesting policy decisions taken in India.
Yeah.
It's confusing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. You also had the Victory Day parade in Russia. by the way,
Yeah. See,
yesterday.
last year, this Victory Day parade was the big story, and I was in Ukraine
Huh.
when the Victory Day parade was happening, and it was all being speculated that some big announcement will be made. And, this year, it's just another Victory Day parade, it seems, isn't it? It's completely different how things change, how the context of such events changes with what the scenario on the ground is.
Actually, that reminds me. I wanted to ask you this. Just a brief mention. We won't discuss Russia and Ukraine too. Just by the way, but what did you make of that so-called attack on
Kremlin?
Putin? Kremlin.
The drone?
Yeah.
See, the timing was quite interesting, just ahead of Victory Day.
Yeah.
So my hunch is it certainly wasn't Ukraine, because if it's Ukraine, then why is Russia
Thought
quiet?
as much. Yeah.
If Ukraine has gathered the courage to strike Kremlin.
Or the ability, by the way, because that's the
yeah,
equivalent
exactly.
of launching an attack on, let's say, the Rashtrapati Bhavan in India, for example.
So if they have managed to do that, they've managed to breach the airspace and reach right up till there.
Yeah.
And for Russia to be quiet is a little odd.
Yeah.
So I don't know what kind of a mind game was that. I found it extremely intriguing.
Intriguing. Yeah.
What's happening.
Yeah.
And one day, few hours, there was a lot of noise. Suddenly, both sides got quiet.
Exactly. Yeah, that was very weird.
Both sides got quiet.
Yeah. Because you know what? Incident, it was a very big coincidence. I think the news broke when we were recording our last episode, by the way. Because I remember walking out of our studios and my desk was just like, just running around and shouting. And I was like, what's going on? And then they're like, this Russia is claiming that, Ukraine has sent drones to attack Putin. I was like, what? Yeah. And then I think you were live. Just
I was live.
Yeah. So it was that moment. Yeah. So.
By the way, I was supposed to be live right now.
Oh.
On what's happening in Pakistan.
Right.
We are running a complete on our digital. We are running a separate stream on what's happening in. So they wanted me for 2 hours, but the heft that In Our Defense has now. When I said that I'm already committed for a recording here.
Yeah.
People said okay.
Wow. That's
so In Our Defense has made inroads in the traditional news platforms. So which I thought was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that's
like
quite.
Everybody agreed. Okay, they said, "Okay, ठीक है, वहाँ चले जाओ."
That's quite the achievement. I think our producer Anna will be
really exactly.
That.
Otherwise, I'm sure a little earlier they would say, "कि tell them to change the time."
Of course. Podcast,
What's this? What's podcast?
क्या होता है? कौन सुनता है? कहाँ होता है? आता भी है.
Sometimes I get these snide remarks from people.
अच्छा.
Yeah, sometimes, and I have a way to deal with it. So I say that. We are the stars of the poor people. Isn't it?
Yeah. Right.
So we are happy with that.
Yeah. Right. So let's talk about Pakistan. This is, like we said, a day after. This is on a Wednesday of the week. So this is just a day after the former Prime Minister Imran Khan was arrested. in Pakistan by Pakistani Rangers. And he's been arrested for corruption charges. Apparently,
In one of the cases.
in one of the many cases
Some
that he's
80
facing.
cases against
80
him
he's
or something.
facing,
So.
yeah. This particular case, I think, has to do with some amount of black money that was recovered in the UK, and that was supposed to be when Imran was PM, he was supposed to have ensured that it went back to the coffers of the government, but then he is alleged to have taken a bribe from some contractor in Pakistan and then sort of given the money to him. That's the point. The point is there's been quite a lot of talk about Imran Khan being arrested. Before this, I think a couple of weeks ago, I think there was an attempt made to arrest him at his residence, kind of unsuccessful. There were reports, media reports, I'm not sure how true, that Imran Khan jumped a wall to, I think, escape the police who had come to arrest him. Not sure if it's true or not, but those reports did do the rounds. Yesterday, he was finally arrested during a court appearance. Initially, it was a big deal from the get-go. But I wasn't expecting what happened half an hour later, the kind of visuals that started pouring in from Pakistan, the ones that we were running on our television and that ones that we saw on social media. Some of them, by the way, very hilarious and absurd. We'll come to that.
They are absurd and hilarious, but I'll decode that. I'll try and decode why those kind of things were happening.
So we'll come to that. But my first thoughts, because I saw some chatter about this on social media, and which is where I'd like you to step in. Some people were in disbelief that a country where the military is so strong, a country where the military is so iron-fisted, that's a country where people can just run amok. We had reports of a corps commander's house being attacked.
The corps commander taking refuge in some secret location.
The
kind
military
of things are inexplicable.
Exactly. The military headquarters in Rawalpindi being stormed by protesters of Imran Khan's party, the PTI. And also, I think, an attempt being made to lay siege to the building of the ISI, the headquarters of ISI. So people on social media, and by the way, even in the newsroom, were a bit suspicious about this. Like, aisa nahi ho sakta unless the army is somehow involved, and basically throwing up a picture of instability so that they can once again, as they always have,
lots of speculation.
I
get
so
that.
First thoughts from you on that. What do you make of this? Valid, or you think?
Well, valid, but still in the realm of speculation. I'll just go by what I've seen. What's there for people to see. Yes, true that the military has not retaliated because of whatever reasons you are alluding to it. That there's a completely different kind of a game plan here. But the underlying fact that the angst of the people was seen against the military is that cannot be made up.
Yeah.
And that's perhaps the first in the history of this country. There were coups, there were military dictators. People never had the courage to do this. Now, again, various theories. One is that Imran Khan has managed to divide the military. There are generals who support him. Well, if that is true, that's also a watershed moment for the military to be divided and people to be loyal to this extent to a civilian political leader.
Yes.
I think that's a huge change. And I might be sort of trolled or grilled for this. If one is to see what's happening just take it on face value. In the long term, it looks that there's something which is good for Pakistan.
Yeah.
I see a silver lining here that, of course, there will be a lot of disruption, a lot of violence. Many people could get killed. A lot of things can happen. There could be civil strife for a very long time. But if at the end, the common man on the street is calling out the army's bogey, then that's Naya Pakistan, isn't it? Yeah. That's the new Pakistan for sure. We haven't seen a Pakistan where the military has less stake in how the country is run. And again, those visuals that we saw, the videos that came, they were precisely very intriguing because of this. This kind of inquisitiveness amongst the people. Yaar, inke gharon mein hota kya hai? That's what took them inside and come out with peacocks, with strawberries from their fridges.
Yeah.
Just representing that these are exotic kind of homes,
This is a bottle of
lifestyles.
Coca-Cola. Soft
Yeah,
drink,
yeah. I mean, so I'm not saying that this is something really great,
Huh.
but that inquisitiveness, that what are these fortresses all about?
Okay.
And who are these people?
Yeah,
That's
like what's
what.
behind those high walls.
Yeah, then that's what took them inside there. I'm sure there was arson, there was looting, like it happens in any kind of mob situation. But why would anybody come out with a peacock
Yeah.
or food items? So that shows the mindset of the people of that country, that they want to bring them down. Even if it was all Imran Khan's cadre. Let's play devil's advocate that there was no common janta here. Well, Imran Khan is a political leader, so his cadre is normal civilians.
From the city, yeah.
Isn't it? So if he has such a loyal cadre, that's suddenly agreeing to take on the military, risking their lives. Yes, it's true that the army has not retaliated. In fact, the police has not retaliated. I have not seen any kind of a backlash from the forces. So one can talk and try to sort of debate why did they not. My hunch is very clear that they thought that if they do, things would get worse. So it just makes sense not to do so. I saw a few conspiracy theories on social media, and some of them from Pakistani handles, that what if the army decides not to do anything right now and suddenly declare Imran Khan's party, PTI, a terrorist organization. So that's the extent to which the Pakistani military can go.
Yeah.
That people are talking about. I mean, why not? Why not? It's about their existence.
Yeah.
This is all that they have seen. And suddenly if that existence is not just getting challenged, and it's been shattered in just a few hours. The kind of things, Air Force base, people inside an Air Force base, can you beat that? A dummy of a fighter aircraft burnt.
Yeah.
And another very interesting aspect which we will dwell upon maybe a little later, but I'll touch upon it right now. You look at the places where this has happened. I saw a map again on social media. One of the OSINT experts had put out a map. And since I like to follow these things from a military point of view, the kind of places where this kind of violence has happened, Lahore, Sialkot, Bhawalpur, Gujranwala, all very important formations of the Pakistani army as far as the deployments are concerned to guard against India.
Okay.
So they will feel the heat. Because their operational functionality, capabilities can get impacted by something like this. And hence that conspiracy theory of them being called a terror organization. So that is why we were not sure whether we should discuss. Yeah. And you had a concern that we might end up repeating ourselves.
Yeah, because we've discussed Pakistan.
Yeah, we have discussed Pakistan before when all this started long back. But why Anna and I thought that, this merits a discussion and should take precedence over some of the other topics that we had shortlisted, which are again extremely exciting. Actually, more exciting for me personally than Pakistan. I would still confess, but we need to keep in mind what people would like to listen and watch. Yeah. We could be wrong. We could be wrong, horribly wrong. But we make those attempts. We don't have a magic wand, so we just go with our gut. So why I thought that this was different is because this is the first kind of a situation in Pakistan. So we might repeat a few things here and there, but the situation that has risen in Pakistan is certainly that hasn't been discussed before, hasn't been talked of before. People discuss that there could be turmoil in Pakistan if Imran Khan goes to jail. The politics of Pakistan, how will it shape from there onwards? But nobody thought that it will be an open challenge to Pakistan's military, an ultimatum, get down from your high horses. That's what has happened according to me. Yeah, that's what I feel.
Yeah, but throughout all of this, throughout even back then when we discussed Imran Khan and Pakistan, the army has been this time around has been very steadfast when it keeps saying that it does not want to interfere in the country's politics. Like if you remember, we discussed how they had passed this resolution, so to speak, that we'll just stay away from the politics of this country.
Do you think that's true?
I was going to ask you that
No,
actually.
you should answer. And you have been following these things. And
I think they just don't want to be seen pulling the strings in public domain, but behind the scenes, obviously they'll be as involved as possible.
I'm sure they are, and I think that all this talk that we don't want to be seen as being part of the political decision making was also prompted by the fact that what we mentioned earlier, that Imran Khan did manage to divide the army.
Yeah.
So I think it was a result of that. It was prompted, triggered because of this. So they realized somewhere that we are losing that hold that we had on the politics of the country. And now that our own people have their allegiances, that's why we shouldn't be seen as as those who are running the country. But in reality, hardly changed.
Yeah.
Hardly changed. And see, it also depends what you construe as domestic issues where the military should not function. From an Indian point of view, the kind of things that we need to think of and be wary of Pakistan and where Pakistan's politics comes in all those aspects, the army is involved. So from an Indian perspective, I don't care what their sort of thinking is on how to deal with the education system. That's obviously not our concern.
Yeah.
Our concern is our security issues.
Yes.
And in those security issues, I can tell you that the domestic politics has absolutely no say. Why I'm saying that is because in India, the politics, the domestic issues have some kind of a linkage. They don't function separately. There is a connect. The army cannot function as an independent entity. Going to war, things like that are very much political decisions. Striking Balakot in through air raids was a political decision. It wasn't the Air Force wanted to do it, so they did it.
Yeah.
Isn't it? It's not like that.
Yeah.
Uri, surgical strike. Now, surgical strikes, the term was a new one. It was whoever did it was a sharp guy, I think. But those kind of shallow raids, taking on terrorists across the LOC, busting terror hideouts, had happened before. But they were all sort of quote-unquote secret operations. It was a political decision to go to town and say that we have crossed the LOC on foot and we've done this. So all our military actions have a political decision-making behind it. You can't say that for Pakistan.
Yeah, true. And I think, I don't know if you can say that's a measure of proof per se, but I think the fact that ever since he was ousted as Prime Minister, Imran Khan has been going hammer and tongs after that Pakistani military leadership is, I think, kind of proof enough how heavily they must be that this guy feels that is the one power that I need to challenge in the country. For example, the one thing that was linked to yesterday's arrest is his, I forgot the name of the Major General if I'm not wrong, but there's a top-ranking general in the ISI who Imran Khan says was behind the assassination of a journalist critical of the Pakistan establishment in an African country, and being involved in the attack that took place on Imran Khan in which his leg was injured. What do you make of that? Like, why, first of all, singling out this one particular officer and going after him. What do you make of this?
So in all this talk and all this speculation that is happening, isn't military the protagonist?
Yeah, it looks like.
They are, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have some officer here, there koi conspiracy theory kahin chal rahi hai. There's a good story about Dirty Harry that our Austin team has put out, a brigadier. We can put that link to the podcast. So why these characters? Why aren't you talking about some civil servant?
True.
Isn't it?
Exactly.
So point is that that's the kind of power that these officers enjoy in that country, and that is why when we started, I said that it was this intrigue amongst the janta to find out who these people are. Let's go and check out. Let's go and raid their homes. It wasn't the army that has arrested Imran Khan.
Yes.
It's the Rangers.
Yeah.
And again, it's actually the police. I would
Rangers
still say.
are, yeah.
Rangers are what
government.
our BSF is.
BSF, yes.
So
exactly.
the Rangers probably were there to ensure that public order is
Extra security, basically.
things like that.
Yeah.
So that's why they were sent there. So why did this turn into an anti-army movement?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So very clearly, because yes,
The perception is ये तो आर्मी ने करवाया.
ये आर्मी ने करवाया है, and it could be political.
Yeah.
Of course, it could be something that the cadre.
Because you can't forget, by the way, elections are about to come up in Pakistan later this year, by the way. So,
We are not sure if Imran Khan will be able to contest because
we're not sure.
he was barred from doing so by their election commission, and I think that's something that's going on in their courts.
yeah.
And
even in this case also, I think if he's convicted, the one that he's been arrested in,
yes,
then he'll
yes,
also be
yes,
barred again.
of course. So I don't know how that pans out, but very clearly there is a military connection to whatever is happening. And again, the kind of frustration you've heard intellectuals from Pakistan say so many times, leave us alone, leave us alone. The army should just move out of our everyday business. And then there is also a lot of sort of internal rivalries between the army and the ISI. Don't forget.
Oh, what?
The
Between
army and the ISI.
Okay.
Now the ISI has army officers, but
Yeah.
it's not Pakistani army.
Right, but the ISI chief does report to the army chief, right?
The ISI chief is a DG rank officer. So he's a lieutenant general.
Lieutenant
rank
General,
officer.
yeah.
So ISI doesn't work under the Pakistani army per se.
Okay, the perception generally is कि it's just a arm of the Pakistan.
Yeah, but because it's manned at the top by Pakistani army officers. That's why one feels that it's an extension.
Right.
But there are a lot of undercurrents between ISI and the army, and once again in all the drama that's happening here, if you scrutinize, read carefully, you will come across these strands thrown in by Pakistani journalists, commentators, which will give you a hint at the ISI's role, the army's role, their internal differences. The point is that it's a country which is not governed by civil political sensibilities. That's the point I'm trying to make. And I think people have had enough. It could be politically motivated. It is a political movement. Yeah. I'm not saying it's not.
Because you're saying
I'm
that
not saying
army
it's
is
organic.
involved in the Pakistan's politics, so obviously it's political.
So at some point of time, they'll have to face the backlash.
Yeah.
And this is what it is. And once again, I think we've mentioned this before also, to bust a lot of myths of people in India. Why we should be under a military rule, or the military should have more power and things like that. I think you won't have a better case study than what's brewing in your neighborhood. And once again, at the expense of getting grilled, Nehru and his ilk saved us many years back.
By setting up a system where the army does not feel.
And Nehru was quite upfront about it.
Yeah.
The military is important, but it should be under leash.
Yeah. And I mean, like you're right. I mean, if you see what's going on, the last day's example is enough just to see the, I don't want to sound like a Pakistani basher. I mean, that's the term we use.
No, I am empathizing with the people of Pakistan, what they've gone through.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
I'm not being a Pakistani basher.
At points it's horrific, and at points it's also a bit funny. Like, what is going on?
Just imagine the kind of lives we have lived.
Yeah.
If it was reversed, I would feel suffocated.
Yeah.
So, coming to that, before we started recording, I said I'll mention something important to you. So, the other day I had the privilege of speaking to a very August gathering, and to be in a place where I was addressing and briefing senior military officers from 12 nations. And these were officers who were part of a study program in the Royal College of Defence Studies, which is the equivalent of our National Defence College, which is the highest level of any course that military officers take.
Okay.
In India, brigadiers take that course. Here there were colonels and brigadiers. So in my talk, I did mention about one thing, and after the talk was over, a lot of people had questions to ask just about this aspect, when I said that over the years, something that we have reiterated many times in our podcast, that in the last 3 years, since China has been breathing down our neck, Pakistan has gone off our agenda at the political level, at the military level, journalistic level.
Yes.
A Pakistan story is not that great anymore. It's a scoop that you look in what's happening with China. That's what we are all more interested in. So they were all surprised.
Okay.
These are military officers who see all these things. So they were not. This came as news to them, and there was a lot of cross questioning with me. And this was just hours before all this happened. And I was explaining them a lot of these kind of things, that look at the strife that's happening in Pakistan, and they have their own problems. And now there's a ceasefire reiteration at the LOC. And we all know who the real enemy is, referring to China. So this was music to their ears.
Okay.
That when did this change?
Wow.
We thought that India-Pakistan, old rivalry, this, that, because a lot of them were British. So, of course, they do understand. Lots of Indians and Pakistanis living in that country. The India-Pakistan rivalry is seen upfront in neighborhoods, probably in that country. So, I explained to them, and that was one big takeaway they said that they have from this interaction with me. That Pakistan is no more the big talk in India, and it's China.
Yeah.
And with what's happening in Pakistan, it's even more apparent that things don't look so rosy. But yeah, there is a silver lining. There is a silver lining that shayad Pakistan sudhar jaye yaar. I don't know. I mean, what if this movement turns into a big civil movement? And what happens next? That's why I'm intrigued.
Intrigued, yeah.
See, earlier you knew the writing on the wall. Yaar, aisa kuch hoga and Pakistan army will come back.
Come in and take over, yeah.
I'm not sure how these things will pan out in the future. And I'm just thinking, what if there's a big... Pakistan is a country that's not had people's movements. I mean, we have seen people's movements in pockets of this country. Anna and Kejriwal is a classic latest case study of a people's movement suddenly turning into a political force to reckon with.
Yeah.
If not a force to reckon with, at least a challenge, at least an alternative, a player somewhere. No endorsement for any party here.
Of course, but you can't. Yeah, but you can't.
Yeah, you can't discount AAP now, isn't it?
And the fact that
it didn't come through. It didn't come through the traditional political scheme of things.
And you can't discount the fact that the movement was one of the key factors in bringing down the UPA government, which was ruling at the time.
Yes. So Pakistan. I don't know how is student politics in Pakistan. I don't know.
Yeah.
And in India, at least till I was a student, student politics was big. I mean, I know a lot of people.
I think it's quite big,
I know a lot of people, a lot of contemporaries. I won't name them here. Who are political leaders now for various parties who I have studied with in Delhi University around my time from different colleges contesting for ABVP, NSUI, SFI, etc., who are into mainstream politics. I'm not sure if that happens in Pakistan. I mean, I have not studied the politics of Pakistan to get into that nuance, but my hunch is it's not that predominant.
Yeah.
So I mean so that's why I say that this is a very different kind of a moment. How it pans out, it's difficult to predict. Either it's just it's something that the army, one of the conspiracy theories, the army is just allowing this to happen, and suddenly they'll clamp down.
Yeah, just like spread some sort of anarchy and then like make that excuse.
Make that a justification for the clamp
for them coming in.
So that could be, but the other is that this could spread like fire and. What happens next?
Yeah.
So that's why it's different from what the narrative, the discourse that we've been following.
Right. But just one thought, by the way, when you said that the officers you addressed were taken aback that thinking in India has changed with respect to China and Pakistan. At the risk of very shameless promotion, you should have told them to listen to our podcast, because I think that's kind of what we've been doing in the last year.
No, I did tell them that a lot of nitty-gritties, because there was a paucity of time. So I did mention that if you are interested in listening and understanding of these things, which are very contextual.
Yes.
Because these are people who know the background.
Of course, they won't need any.
They are military officers. But if you want to know things which are extremely contextual and which are not there in mainstream narrative, then please listen to us. I did say that.
Again, shameless promotion, and
No, why shameless?
Not shameless, but there's
nothing shameless about it.
So
be upfront.
So, okay, to our listeners and viewers, we are very upfront about promoting our podcast, because we
actually, we are not good enough. I would still say we are not good enough.
Definitely not.
We are not good enough. People do a better job at self-promotion. We are not that good, actually.
Yeah. But it's just that we love these discussions. We love doing this. So we just, want more and more people to listen to it. So, we'll be back after a quick break.
So what is India doing about the new dangers posed by TB? India's National Tuberculosis Elimination Program has been running for over 50 years now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has pressed the accelerator pedal on eradicating TB altogether in the country. In Varanasi in March this year, the Prime Minister reiterated India's commitment to eliminate TB by 2025. This was 5 years ahead of the target set by the United Nations for the global eradication of TB. The Prime Minister also launched a TB Mukt Panchayat, an initiative to bring India's tuberculosis elimination effort down to the last village and the last mile. As part of this initiative, the support of 250,000 Gram Panchayats will be enlisted to raise awareness about TB and try and eliminate the stigma and monitor service delivery. Last year, President Draupadi Murmu launched the Pradhan Mantri TB Mukt Bharat Abhiyan, which allows ministers, celebrities, businessmen, corporates and NGOs to adopt TB patients and become what are called Nikshay Mitras. They help mobilize financial resources for them. Currently, the government claims nearly 75,000 people and organizations are part of the scheme, and over 1 million patients have been adopted. The government is also enlisting what are called TB Vijetas, people who have conquered the disease, to educate people and give emotional support to current patients. Early diagnosis is a critical frontier that the government is also focusing on. Unlike regular TB, it can be challenging to map the full extent of drug-resistant TB because it requires specialized tests to detect. These tests are often expensive and not widely available. Meanwhile, new testing technology called TrueNAT and CBNAAT are game changers for the rapid and accurate diagnosis of TB.
Welcome back. Abhishek and I are discussing the goings-on in Pakistan, where former PM Imran Khan has been arrested by the police, by actually the national, I forgot the name, but it's a corruption body. It's a corruption body. The NAB, it's called the National Accountability Office.
Bureau.
It's basically an anti-corruption watchdog in Pakistan that's arrested Imran Khan. So, Abhishek, before the break, I mentioned that some things that happened yesterday post Imran Khan's arrest were honestly quite funny, at the risk of sounding insensitive, but you had a guy like you mentioned with the peacock outside the Corps Commander's house. You have, by the way, gave a very nice insight into why that could have happened, what could have been going on in the minds of those people. Like, you just want to see what is this Alishan Mahal, so to speak, just dekh ke aate kya hota hai. The other thing that I thought was a bit funny was the PTI, Imran Khan's party, alleging that Imran Khan was tortured and beaten up by those arrested. Do you think that's even like former Prime Minister of a country? Arresting him itself is a huge deal. It made headlines across the world. There were breaking flashes on all prominent international news channels. Do you think it's even reasonably possible for any force in Pakistan, even if it's a military for that matter, to torture a former prime minister while in the process of arresting him?
Torture, I'm not sure, but roughing up maybe.
Sachi mein ho sakta hai. Like, not in the process. I mean, roughing up with the intention of
not in
roughing
the
him.
process. I'm talking when in custody.
There's lots of crowds around him, so obviously,
I'm saying when in custody. if he's still behaving like the Prime Minister,
Ach.
then you never know, isn't it? If he's trying to sort of tell
Acha,
them
like,
that,
you know, okay,
what if he's saying, tomorrow if I become the Prime Minister, फिर दिखाऊंगा तुम लोग को.
Acha, okay.
This is very speculative. Yeah. He's just trying to get into the heads.
Yeah.
But it was a hypothetical question, so a hypothetical answer. That police custody is a vague, weird place. Anything can happen there, believe me.
Okay.
It's
You talk as though from experience.
no, I mean I know of things that can happen. So
Okay.
it's
Experience for journalists then. Okay.
yeah. So the unthinkable does happen there, and a lot of people who otherwise think are powerful sort of are leveled
Okay.
while they are in police custody. Again, you know, torture, physical torture is an extreme. Just the way you are dealt with,
Yeah.
it feels torturous.
Like humiliating you,
Especially
basically,
if you are a big shot.
right.
And Imran Khan, even if he wasn't the Prime Minister, is a big shot in that country.
Yes, of course.
You can't
forget
disregard that.
World Cup winning.
I mean, he is, I think, the biggest superstar that country has had.
Yeah.
And if one is to...
Yeah,
I
I'm thinking right now, but I can't recall any other name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being a sportsman to be the biggest superstar in the country, in a country which is not really known for sports. It's only cricket and in the earlier years hockey. Otherwise, you don't associate Pakistan with sport. So in a country for a sports personality to be a mega superstar, then become the Prime Minister, then to be in custody. It's coming down many levels from where you have gotten used to living. So in that case, some kind of torture, mental torture.
Mental torture, just to clarify.
Could have happened.
Right. Right, okay. So I'm going to talk now a bit about what you briefly mentioned before the break. It kind of caught my interest. You said that while you were looking at the map of the areas of the unrest, the buildings or whatever targeted by those protesting, and you said that those were mostly areas where the military has the formations or whatever that are kind of aimed at India.
India-centric.
Yeah, because the other border.
I mean, it's to the eastern border.
Yeah,
not to the west.
Afghanistan.
And some of them are very close.
Yeah.
Places like Gujranwala, Lahore, Sialkot are extremely close to the border.
Yeah. So, two questions for you over there. One, what were you kind of trying to hint at before the break when you mentioned that? And second, then do you think there was some sort of planning? Because, the arrest happened at, I think, around 4:30, if I'm not wrong. Sorry, around 3:30. And the protest broke out just like in an hour or so, an hour and a half. And by 7 itself, we had visuals of fire being set to the Corps Commander's house and the people storming the headquarters, etc. I'm guessing that's around the time you saw the map as well of the areas of unrest. So for it to happen so quickly and for it to happen in those locations, do you think there was some sort of a strategy involved behind this?
First of all, I'd like to say, my fixation with maps. Whenever there is any problem anywhere, I just look at a map. Because it's the map that gives you a lot of hints. It gives you a very clear picture of what's going to happen, and any kind of confrontation is best understood on a map. So that's why I always start, end, in between, all kinds of procedures that are involved in doing stories related to conflict or confrontation. First of all, look at the map. And it is something that I learned from history, my interest in history. All conquests, wars, etc. The first thing in a history book is a map that explains you.
So in the first page of the chapter is
the
map of the...
So that's why I always like to see where has it happened, how far is it from this place, what could be the repercussions. So yes, and this actually came up in that one of those open source intelligence handles on Twitter, and I just saw the map, and then I tried to analyze. Oh, Bahawalpur also used to be the headquarters of LET at one point of time, or JEM. It still is.
Yeah.
So, this is a place of importance to Pakistan military, to India.
For our listeners and viewers, JEM is the group
Jaish-e
that was
Mohammed,
behind the Pulwama attack.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
Then Sialkot. Sialkot is extremely close to the international border. You can just walk over from the outskirts of Jammu and you'll be in Sialkot. Lahore, of course, we all know how close it is to Amritsar. Gujranwala again is not too far away. By the way, Gujranwala is from where my ancestors came. I have my roots in Gujranwala. I recently met it was at a conclave, India Today conclave. So Pakistani High Commissioner was there. Not connected to this, but we get into these stories once in a while. So Pakistani High Commissioner had come specifically for Sachin's interview. Sachin's session.
Yeah.
Just to, be present physically over there. And the session got over and he was coming out and I met him. The press officer introduced me. So he said that I couldn't have missed this. This had to be the best session. Seeing Sachin up close and speaking so candidly and all his old stories. So both of them were quite thrilled. So I was exchanging notes that my ancestors are from here. The press officer said that my ancestors were from Firozpur in Punjab, which is Indian Punjab. So when I said Gujranwala, he said, "You look like a guy from Gujranwala." So I don't know. I mean, if he's true or he's just making polite conversation. He said it in chaste Punjabi. You look like a typical Gujranwala person. So so these are places close to the Indian border. Very sensitive deployments of the Pakistani army. When I say close, just people might see the map and give us distances and tomorrow say, no, Gujranwala is not that close. So close doesn't mean stones throw away.
Yeah,
these are formations. They're div level formations. They're cores.
These are basically the ones that will be involved in a conflict.
Yes.
They'll be the ones sent.
The frontline soldiers are under these formations, under their control. So in that sense, these are very sensitive places. So obviously, if there is so much of unrest and turmoil, and where the army is being targeted by their own people, of course, it's a matter of grave security concern for them. And of course, it's not something that India is just hooked on to what's happening in Pakistan or something like that. But we will be keeping an eye. I mean, we don't want to be caught off guard. And there's no big deal in following the domestic events of a neighbor like Pakistan, which we are.
I'll circle back to that because I have an interesting point to make over there. But before that, something else that you said before the break caught my attention. And I think this is something we haven't discussed previously in our podcast. And this is something that I have, over a period of time, when I started reading more about Pakistan and the military and its stranglehold on the country's policies and politics, I've always been getting a sense that the generals, Pakistani generals, and when I say generals, I don't mean the top general, obviously the whole body of generals, Lieutenant generals, major generals, all of them seem to be quite out of touch with the realities of the country. Now, see, I just want to clarify. I'm no Pakistani expert. I don't know much about the country's politics. I don't know about the background of the generals, by the way. But this is something I get a sense of when I read what I read about Pakistan, when I have chats with you. Because you mentioned that, even the citizens over there want to see that what's behind these walls. What is this bottle of Coca-Cola, for example, if that's what you were trying to hint at. Because the generals seem to be, they seem to have this, not a
aura,
leaning,
aura
this
around
aura,
themselves.
yeah. They are just something else altogether. So have you also gotten that sense in your coverage of
the stories
of
that
Pakistan?
we've heard of the lavish lifestyles,
Yes.
The extravagant parties and things like that. See, Pakistanis are good hosts. I mean, I've not been to Pakistan, but whenever I've attended any event here in Delhi, yes, they will. The way of inviting you and taking care of you and feeding you, they are that typical Punjabi thing, which is there in India also. A lot of commonalities. But and Pakistani army is Punjabi dominated.
Yes.
So it could be both. One, a cultural thing of living a life king size, extravagant lives, which is a very Punjabi thing. Even civilians in Punjab do it. And then the aura around their status, their position. See, it's like even in India you have certain services the civil services in India was considered the place to be in, elite, this, that. But it has changed. Post 91, when big corporate jobs started coming into India, that aura around civil services
has kind of faded away.
It's not the same.
True.
And civil servants, IAS officers are just another kind of people. Yes, they can pull strings, they have some contacts. They can be helpful. All that is true. They are better off than us for sure when it comes to all these things. But it's not as if they have a hold on everything. In Pakistan, what we've heard is that nothing can move without the whims and fancies of these generals. So that's where the difference lies. And I think we've discussed this before. Indian generals live in basic cities like Noida, Gurgaon, Chandigarh, Mohali. Some live down south because they have this affinity with Wellington, where they go as young officers to do their staff college. So they end up buying some property there. They don't live in London.
I was just going to mention that.
So that's just one simple way of putting it. A young officer doesn't drive in India, doesn't drive any fancy cars. They'll drive a car that any other man or woman of that age would be. And the older stories that we hear from Pakistan were even more intriguing when it came to the kind of lifestyle. Forget about the general, young officers lived completely different. So that they are demigods and they have a different aura in their society needn't be reiterated. And what we found funny in those videos, the funny side of it, because we belong to a different culture.
Yeah.
That's why we found them funny. But those guys were not finding it funny.
Of course.
They had this kind of a feeling that we are demystifying you. That's the sense that I got. That's the kick that they were getting out of it. So if you make these basic comparisons, I think that's the difference.
Right. One of the last thoughts from you, and this is again, as we tend to do very often, is kind of slipping into our producer Anna's territory, who hosts another her own podcast on geopolitics, but I think still very relevant to this issue at hand. We've had statements from, I think, the US and the UK, I'm forgetting which other country, on what happened with Imran Khan's arrest. India, if I'm not wrong, has not commented on this. Once again, underlining what you mentioned before the break, just like, it's Pakistan's internal thing. Why should we have to always comment on it? Sort of a strategy that we've taken on that. But still, how is it being viewed? And I'm going to name only 3 major countries. One, US, for whom Pakistan was a staunch ally for more than a decade. For India, obviously. And crucially, the country we keep talking about, China. Because China, we cannot disregard that they have a lot of interest in Pakistan. A lot of trade interests, a lot of land interests. They have their people over there working. So how do you think these countries are viewing?
No, China is the biggest stakeholder, I think. Yes. Having said that, not that US isn't, because the geographical location of Pakistan makes it a very interesting place, and it allows Pakistan to be sort of played into that trap of good boy, bad boy kind of a thing. So when they had to get Osama, so Pakistan was made to play good cop. And that's again an unfortunate misfortune of the people of that country, that they sort of used.
Because you can't really stand up for your own sovereignty. Sovereign space.
So China will definitely be watching things extremely closely. And I think India's interests will start from there.
I was just gonna
what China is
mention
doing,
that, yeah.
what China is doing in these circumstances, and I'll give you try to give you a clear illustration of what is happening now and what will happen later. As we were discussing, that India's interest in Pakistan bashing is much less now. A few years down the line, say 4-5 years down the line, if something like this happened, there would be a lot of off-record briefings. This is what is happening in Pakistan. Some videos would come. Dekh lo, you guys can use it.
You meant a few years ago.
A few years back.
Back,
yeah. Few years ago. From the Indian security establishment sources. Nothing of that sort has happened.
Exactly.
Nothing.
It's like they haven't even taken notice of what's happened. It's like,
I could be attending a briefing 5-6 years back if something like that happened. These are the pros and cons. This is how we are looking at it. This is what is expected. This is what our int says. And we would do a few stories here and there around it. No talk. This will change the moment we have a clear picture of what China is doing. And then, I'm telling you, we'll be discussing on one of our podcasts what China is doing in Pakistan under these circumstances.
Yeah, it's very interesting actually. So India's interest in Pakistan will actually be shaped by China's interest in Pakistan. It's not our own interest. So I think it's an idea we've given to our producer for an episode.
They can do it. She can do it with Geeta Mohan.
With Geeta Mohan, one of our colleagues. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Yeah, right. So, theek hai. Just two last things, and again, the funny side of it. I'm sorry if I keep talking about the funny aspect of what happened yesterday, but there are just like a couple of elements.
A lot of memes.
Memes, yeah.
So many memes, especially of Imran Khan. Ghabrana nahi hai. There's that. Someone said, "Ab to ghabra jao." So yeah, all that will happen.
Yeah. But something that struck me was that when you were talking about all these locations where the unrest was taking place, I was just thinking like, how come no one has come up with a conspiracy theory that somehow the Raw is involved in all of this? And
no, that's for Pakistan to do.
There, of course, obviously there. But then I just thought, someone actually from Pakistan did tweet about this, by the way, last night. They actually wanted the Delhi police to lodge a complaint on it. And the Delhi police had
very witty, this thing.
Saying, unfortunately, our jurisdiction does not apply to Pakistan. But how are you tweeting? Because internet seems to be shut in your country.
Very witty of whoever is handling Delhi police's Twitter handle.
That was a
well done
moment, yeah. And
you want your security forces, police forces to sometimes sort of just calm down and engage in this kind of banter.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Light moment, yeah. But one last thing that struck me, just to briefly discuss with you, is that, and this is something that will be appreciated by people who follow the news very closely, is the banner headline that says Section 144 across Pakistan. I mean, Section 144, it's the one thing that the two countries have inherited from the British.
Colonial legacy.
I wonder if Section 144 is there in the UK penal code right now.
I don't know. See, the IPC is here in Pakistan penal code. It's exactly the same. It's a carbon copy.
Yeah. So, so it was a chuckle in the newsroom, when we had that news flash coming in, Section 144 imposed across Pakistan. I was like,
they also
have bhi hota hai. So, yeah.
And unfortunately, if they had a few other things that we have.
They wouldn't have to do this actually. So, good point. Thanks, Abhishek. Fun chat as usual. Had lots of fun. And I, again, love that insight of yours. I did not think of that at all, actually. The one where you said that the videos that we saw of, people stealing those items from those...
that's the only reason I decided we should discuss. Have this discussion.
Yeah, it's
because those were pictures, visuals. I'm telling you that will go down in history.
Yeah,
it's the first time Pakistan Army has been called out, not just challenged, called out, and they did not know how to act, how to react, what to do. They were caught completely off guard, is what my hunch is.
Perhaps
they never expected this. They would have expected protests, this, that.
Yes.
But they did not expect Pakistani army to be targeted. Why were there no attacks on police stations or government buildings or courts or any other thing that represents state? Why just the army? Is a question that is very easy to answer.
Of course. And I think we kind of have over the course of this episode. So, I get your point. And I'm guessing that also explains what you said, that the military has been absent since the events of yesterday. It's been a full 24 hours now as we discuss this. And I don't think there's been a statement from the military. It's kind of weird considering your establishments have been targeted. One of your top ranking officers' house was targeted. So
Corps Commander's house in Lahore
Corps
was
Commander,
an army mess was burned down.
Yes, they also I think entered the gates of the headquarters. I mean, they didn't reach deep. I think the initial periphery gate of the headquarters in Rawalpindi Army headquarters. So, but
Certainly a breach, more than a breach.
certainly
actually,
a
more than
breach.
breach.
Enough for I think any military to like kind of say something, do something about which they haven't. Which
And then there's speculation of the army chief being sacked.
I did not
Yeah,
come
there
across
is
that actually.
that of the army chief being replaced.
Acha.
So I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of grapevine, I guess.
I think we mentioned this the last time as well that things in Pakistan we have to watch, and I think this has just one development that's happened since we said it last time. So again, we are still in a wait and watch sort of a mode, and to our listeners and viewers, we promise that when there are more developments, we'll once again talk about this. And to you, you can let us know what you want us to talk about. If you have any ideas, if you think there's something lacking in our or missing in our discussions, do let us know. You can drop a comment to us at whatever podcast platform you listen to us on, or you can drop a text to us at 8588 966 996, or an email at pods@inyourday.com. That's pods@inyourday.com. That's it for this week's Defense Dose. For more, tune in next week. Till then, stay safe and do not cross any boundaries without a passport. Bye bye.